Buckle up, sports fanatics. This is the Sports Chasers Podcast, your HQ for in-depth sports talk. Join host Kevin L. Warren and crew as they dissect the hottest stories, ignite debates, and bring you closer to the action. From locker room whispers to expert takes, we cover it all. It's game time, so strap in and grab a drink. The Sports Chasers Podcast starts right now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's happening, everybody? It's another edition of the Sports Chasers Podcast coming to you. We're not live, we're not direct, man, but this is the interview session, man, where we sit down with great, notable people, man. We just kick it about the world of sports, and it may be about something else, about some things about life, man. And I'm pretty sure we might do that tonight. We got a very special guest. He actually interviewed me on his platform a couple weeks ago, man. So the tables will turn. But before we meet our guest, man, make sure you like, click, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit all the bells for the notification. And all my peoples on the podcast side, you're listening to the sound of my voice. Make sure you give us that 5-star review. Love us or hate us. Make sure you know how you feel about us, man. Speaking about being felt about, the DA, he's with me tonight. DA, what's up tonight, brother? How you doing?
I guess they feel about me. I haven't been stitched or something, whatever the hell that is.
So we take this.
Get out of your feelings. Get out of your feelings.
It's Friday. It's Friday night. We're taping this show, and we had a great show last Thursday night, man. And DA pretty much had a soliloquy about the Draymond Green, his talking about elders and not disrespecting, and we got a lot of traction. And I said to DA and D-Dubs, I said, hey, there was a stitch. They was like, what the hell is a stitch? And
I don't even know what that is.
And we had some dude, basically, he looked like what we call him?
Grimace.
Grimace the ghost, or ghost.
Grimace the ghost. Ghost face Grimace.
Yeah. Man, but hey, needless to say, man, you got to go watch it. Make sure you check it out, man. That episode last night. But hey, it's the interview sessions, man. Like I said, this is when we sit down, we talk to great, notable people in the world of sports, man. And tonight we got a treat, man. We definitely got a treat tonight, man. Let me give him his proper introduction, I should say. Excuse me. Tonight we're joined by a guest who lived many lives, former prosecutor, and now a sharp-eyed pitching coach and insightful podcaster. He blends energy, strategy, storytelling, and straight-up love for competition into everything that he does. A true student of the game, especially old-school baseball. He believes in the grit over glory era when the sandlot was king and talent had no boundaries. But baseball is just the start. He's a diehard Washington Commanders fan. He calls them still Redskins, because I know that because I was on the show a couple weeks ago, and a serious constitutional law junkie. And if you want to talk deep dives into American history, particularly the JFK assassination, he's your guy. He just said that. And on this podcast, he connects the dots between sports, history, and law with humor, sharp insight, and passion. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tonight, man, let me introduce to y'all and to the Sports Chasers podcast community, man, Mr. Jack Moore. Jack, what's going on tonight, brother? How are you? Let me give you some applause.
Thank you, good sir. Thank you.
Kevin, DA, my great pleasure to be here.
I think we're going to have some fun tonight with this one, man. This is going to be on and popping, man. Jack, what's going on, man? Pleasure to have you here with us, man. Like I said, the tables was turned a couple weeks ago. I was on the other end of being asked questions, and me and Jack had fun. Like, we have known each other for years, man.
Yeah. There's an energy, yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes, like you said, different energy, man. And I greatly appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on your platform and talk to your people, man. So I'm happy to be here tonight, man. So let's just go to it, man. Like I said, me and you talk baseball.
Yes, sir.
We're about to start right there.
We're gonna go right there. So you love old school baseball. What do you think about today's game and how it's being played in your thoughts?
All right. Everybody saw Moneyball. So 25 years ago, there's this emphasis. What a real tension in the game today, without question, for my friends in professional baseball. You've kind of got the stat nerds versus the old school types, and everybody's battling over, is it analytics? Is it the eye test? They're writing lineups from the front office now. They're putting people as managers pretty much in spots. You play this guy. There was a playoff situation. Was it last year where they pulled the pitcher based upon the analytics? They blow the lead, they lose the game. So there's a balance. I was always a big fan of Buck Showalter, and
yes.
The kid I actually have up here on the wall played for him with the Rangers and the Orioles. And I met Buck Showalter one time. Hey, how you doing? That was it. But seemed like a really squared away guy, great baseball mind. And he made a great observation a few years ago. He was on a radio show and somebody says, hey, what do you think about this whole Moneyball approach? And he said, you don't teach guys in the minors to walk. There's a lot of science that would say guys are either pitch selective or they're not. You make it try to work to their advantages, what their strengths are. But he asked a question back to the commentator. He goes, who historically walked? Barry Bonds. Who else? How about Ted Williams? Babe Ruth. And he said, what's the common denominator? They could hit the ball 6 miles.
Yeah.
So if you
everywhere.
If you could hit, you walked.
Yeah.
So it's this whole battle between making an observation and trying to teach it downstream versus letting the observation teach you what might be the most effective way to play the game.
Right.
And that's why I think there's balances to it. But I do think the pitching's changed. The 180 pitch Nolan Ryan going deep into the game is not in existence anymore. There's an article I read the other day that's basically saying that the Verlanders and the Scherzers and the last guys in Coles that got the really big contracts, they're going to start going to this like 3 inning each guy.
I told you.
Yeah, so they're breaking down the starter, so he won't be the workhorse getting the big innings anymore. It's going to have an economic effect on the pitching. But as part of this argument too, everybody thinks that guys are throwing harder. I don't think they're better. I think they're airing it out more because they don't have to throw the same number of pitches. I don't know if I'm right on this, but a great example. What did John Smoltz throw as a starter? 91, 94.
Yeah.
Put him in the bullpen, he's 98, 99. Daniel Hudson, that I watched grow up in Virginia Beach. I had a little bit of contact with Daniel growing up. Daniel gets drafted at Old Dominion University, 5th round, 91, touched 93. He closed for the Nationals throwing 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys that I think are capable of airing out the triple digits or getting closer to that number that historically 25 years ago as a starter would not have. They didn't flirt with that number. They just pitched. And they got deep into games and they threw more pitches. So now everybody thinks there's no doubt the average fastball has ticked up, but I don't think it's because the guys are that much better. I think it's just because of how they're playing the game.
So, Jack, you're saying,
Yes,
if I may, so you're saying since we are not pitching 9 innings a game, and you're pitching 3 innings a game, that you may have more juice.
Yes.
More room to let it go for your 3.
Yes.
Right? Go in, go all out for 3. At perfect, your 3 pitches, sort of perfect, your 9 pitches. And anything more than that, hey, we'll take it because we're putting somebody else in after you and we're fine anyways. Right? So that changes the game, but it also changes the economics of what you're doing now, because now as a team, right? So a team has usually, your 4 to 5 starters.
Right.
And you get your, let's say 6 guys, right? Because this is, and I blame this. I tell this to Kev all the time. I blame this on my man Mel Stoudemire and Buck, right? Because they actually, to me, were the inventors of the middle relief, Mariano, Wetland, and we're going home. I'm a Yankees fan.
Yeah.
Right. So it was Stanton or Nelson, Mariano, John Wetland. Close the stadium, fellas. Dorian's getting a beer. Right. That happened for me for a few years straight, right? So I was like, okay. Another guy started to do it. So you started to pull back that, but what you're going to have to do is pay more pitches. Because now you can't have like your development guys that may never pitch, and you're not paying them a whole bunch. Now everybody that you got, you got to give some money to, because you're going to need them 3 out of those guys. You're going to need, and then of course your closer, whoever he is. I would go to Mexico and get my boy and let him close for me because he can pitch. So. What's your boy name, Kev, from the Dodgers?
Who?
What's the dude that got exiled from the league?
Oh, God, man, we talked about him the other day. I'll bring his name up, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
Him. Yes.
Yeah, I would. He would be my influence. So you're changing the whole economics of the team, right? So because it's still not a pitcher's. And yes, and baseball is kind of squishy with the salary cap thing, right? So we know it's squishy, but let's, for argument's sake, so you have a hard cap. It's going to change the way you're paying everyone else, because you got to pay pitchers more money now, right? It's not you have to pay the big guy, the Wetland and that, Scherzer, that guy. It's now you're paying everybody a bunch of money for those 3 innings.
Actually, I think the article was kind of going the other way, saying that you wanted to be the superstar guy at the top, the Verlander, the Scherzer, those kind of guys, and that they're kind of taking that role away and they're sort of spreading it out among. But I agree with you. I think the mindset is clearly gone to, with the expansion, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was after the COVID season, they went to 26 from 25 on the roster.
Yeah,
when it was 25, there was a 13-12 break, depending on the team. Some were 13 pitchers, 12 regular guy, positional guys, and then some were 13-12. But either way, with this bump to 26, I would say most of these staffs are 13 guys. So if you got 13 guys and you're covering daily baseball, if it's 3 and then you go 3, and then you go 3, you threw 9 guys, but now you're back to day 4. That guy at the front, right? And I'm really close friends with Tom House for a number of years. I don't know anybody knows more about pitching and all the people he's worked with. And I remember a kid I had in pro ball. To give you an example, I had a kid in pro ball a few years ago. His first round pick out of Clemson. He's pitching in the minors, and he would go 7 innings, lights out. He'd give up 2, 3, 4 hits, maybe, be really good. Next start, can't get out of the second inning. Just get knocked around. Next start, lights out. And, I called up Tom. I said, Tom, okay, every second start, he can't get out of the second inning. He goes, yeah, he can't recover in 5 days. He's a reliever.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, okay. And he said that was very much the Kerry Woods situation. If you go back and look, Kerry Woods, he's lights out, throws 100 pitches. Next start, not so good. Give him the big break because he's out early and get the next game. So now he's ready. Good. So he keeps running that cycle. So what Tom's big thing is, if you're a pitcher of whatever nature you are, relief pitcher, starter, it's all about recovery. So if you can land that guy, that guy can go air it out for 3 innings. Some guy, number one, he goes out and airs it out for 3 innings. Because most guys are going for 5 because they're trying to get the win. But if they go to a 3-3-3 type of setup, if you go 3, if you come back 72 hours later or more, you should be able to come right back. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that might be an approach that baseball maybe falls into.
I mean, they're close.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are close. So,
Well, what you said on the history of the Yankees, a lot of times you'll hear Gossage, and I get it. And he's pretty animated about it a lot of time. Like, hey, I used to throw the 3 inning close. None of this 1 inning.
We know.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. That was a time. Like I like to go back and look at the old games on YouTube, and I'm a big 75 World Series guy because I'm a Red Sox fan.
Boo! Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I still love you. But look, what does Sparky Anderson do? He's just rolling through them. Remember, he was the guy. He was the hook.
Yep.
So they had Gullett, great starter, and they had, was it Gary Nolan?
Nolan.
Yeah, it's a couple of guys, and then it's a whole bullpen. Pedro Borbon. You didn't know who the hell he was. But he's just throwing
arms at you,
Yes, and he would just rock them all out. And, so the Red Sox approach was Tiant, Bill Lee, and then they threw in, what was the guy with the glasses that hit the 2 home runs one time and a no-hitter he threw? Rick Wise. That's kind of the 3 starters. And then the Red Sox have a bunch of guys out there on the other side of the fence in the bullpen. And back then, nobody was really that much of a specialist. I don't think any of them were really specialists. No. They revolved your ass out of the bullpen to do whatever you could under what other circumstances.
So Sparky may have started that whole, and this is something that you hear these guys talk about now, and I think it makes so much sense, but I don't know why it's a thing where they say, listen, it's the World Series. You throw everything you've got to win games, right? So, we've seen games where it's game 1, especially the last few years, right? We had the Astros against was it Washington?
Well,
hold on. the first few games, right, they were going almost extra innings and they were tied up. And then the Astros would throw every pitcher they had in the game. It didn't matter. Like they're trying to win the game. And I think Dave Roberts would do that too. He'd just throw guys. Listen, I'm not trying to wait for game 2. I'm winning game 1. Right? And for a long time, guys would not do that because, well, we got this guy going tomorrow and he's going to be the reliever tomorrow. And so if this guy goes here, we can't do this here. We can't put this guy here. And it was a little bit before the stat nerds got there, but it was kind of a statistical, strategic decision to say, okay, well, we have Dave Cohn's going tomorrow, right? Coney's old, we know we may need both Nelson and Stanton tomorrow, right? Because, and then Wells may be a little bit more of a horse, and we don't need that, game 3, and it looks like what Sparky did was, if I'm looking back on it, he was the one that said, look, man, we throwing everything at the game. Whoever's there, get in there. Let's win this game, and then we go to the next game.
Well, an example, like I'm saying, watching the 75, I watched Game 6 recently, one of the greatest games of all time, Fisk home run to win it in the 12th. But in that game, and just everything about sports back then was, it's Tony Kubek, Joe Garagiola. They're just great, great commentators. But they made the point. They're like, hey, as Game 6 was starting, Sparky said everybody but Gully. Because if they win that night, Cincinnati wins it. So they are going to the wall with every guy if they have to. Mm-hmm. So, DA, the whole thing about in the season, anyone would tell you in professional baseball, it applies in college too. There are games that get out of hand early, and you're like, hey, we're mailing it in.
Yeah.
We're just going to get through it. And
you put the right fielder in the pitch.
If you can't, well, now they've changed all the rules.
Yeah,
on
I know.
And Major League Baseball too. But yeah, there's days you just accept there is no comeback. But when you're in a series, you have to balance that. Because I agree, there are times that you might think, if this one's out of reach, do we really put everyone in that's a premier arm, knowing we got another chance to win the series tomorrow? Do we blow everything tonight when we're already behind? If I'm down 7-2 in the 7th, I might say,
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was going to ask you, answer my question. I was just going to say, speaking of which, Aaron Boone last World Series, man.
He had a lot of snafus, man. Yeah. But he's watching the game and a laptop, and I don't think that works. Or he has somebody in his ear with the laptop and watching the game, and I think you just let the manager manage. And if he makes the thing about statistics, at least in the world I'm in, I'm IT program manager. Stats are for the next day.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody talks about real-time stats, but there really are no real-time stats.
That's a good point.
Stats come out because you have to look at stats and kind of analyze them, and you can't analyze real time. So analyze just by what the word means is to look at and think about. So that doesn't happen right then. And it doesn't mean make another decision right away. See, that's the thing. You don't have to analyzing doesn't mean you have to make a decision right away when you look at it, right? So you look at it, you think about it, so, okay. And then you have to put it up against your board of what you're looking at to see how it fits into your situation. So Booney has too much to think about, and I don't think any manager should. Just let him do what he does, and then the next day you talk about it and figure it out. If there is a next day. To Jack's point, it may not be a next day, and you got to do what you got to do. But if there is a next day, let's kind of because if not, you got Freddie Freeman up again, and you're like, what the hell? How the fuck did he get here again, right? And Freddie's hitting something else out the park, and you're like, wait, hold on, how did this guy get here again? So that's.
Yeah, I think going back to that, I'm gonna ask Jack about the Red Sox. When he put in Nestor Cortez, I was like, this guy that pitched before him, the dude before, I said, this guy's been really well. Why are we taking him out? And we all know what happened, and that to me, that won the series for the Dodgers. But let me ask you about this, Jack, since you got two Yankee fans up here, and 2004, y'all won the series. How did you feel? And now that y'all got a couple, y'all got more than a couple. What is it? Y'all won 4 since that. What, you got 4 now, right? 2004.
4, 7, 13, and 18. Yeah.
What was the feeling for you when y'all finally squeezed that last out as a Red Sox fan? You know, Red Sox fans at the time were long suffering, I would say, right?
Yeah, and give some
Yes.
background. Oh yeah, to give some background, I get a lot of like, hey, so you from Boston? I'm like, no, I'm from Virginia. But what happened? And I'm like, I don't know. 67 season, I fell in love with Yaz. And what's crazy is I got a really close friend of mine now down in Florida, played in the Dodgers organization. He's from LA. And I meet him in Florida for the first time. I'm down there with a friend of mine from Norfolk State, guy that played at Norfolk State. We're down there doing the baseball thing. And I go over to introduce myself to the coaches, and I'm working the line. I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Jack. And then I look, and right at the moment I shake the guy's hand, I'm like, oh, my gosh, it was Reggie Smith.
Ooh.
So right, who I loved as a kid. And I'm like, yes, sir. He goes, Reggie Smith. I'm like, oh, my God, it's Reggie Smith. So beautiful guy. So I'm like, so wow, like you played on that 67 Impossible Dream Team. Yep. I'm like, wow, what was it so tragic about Canigliaro? What do you remember about the ball in the eye? He goes, Jack, I was on deck. And I'm like, oh, wow. And he said it was the only time in my career I saw a ball hit a guy and go straight to the ground. He goes, last rites were, given twice. But anyway, he tells me about the 67 team. So Gary Lavelle, who's become a really good friend of mine, played with the Giants. So I dropped that name. I'm like, hey, you play with Gary? Oh, my gosh, tell Gary I said hello. Beautiful guy. Reggie Smith was the nicest guy I've ever met. So I was excited. I'm a Sox fan. But as the years went by, I loved Jim Rice. I just fell in love with Jim Rice, everything.
That boy.
Love Fred Lynn, love Fisk, Dewey Evans. Dwight Evans is one of the greatest human beings to play baseball. Just beautiful guy to watch play. So I love the Red Sox. 75, I'm 13. I'm like, ouch. But the Reds, oh, my gosh. It's Morgan. I think Joe Morgan, man, when you're doing the Mount Rushmore of greatest players ever, like to play that game right, I mean, God, Joe Morgan was amazing. Second baseman, hit with power.
They had a crew. They had a crew.
Yeah. You got And my friend Gary I talked about, he told me one time he went on some type of a mission thing with a bunch of guys, and I think they went down, I won't say, somewhere in Latin America, and he was on the team with David Concepcion. And I said, what was that like? He goes, one of the greatest players I ever played with. I pitched against him, kind of knew him. So he's at shortstop, Court Pete Rose, Foster, Ken Griffey Sr.
Woo.
What? Right? So we lose to Cincinnati, but 86 destroyed me. 86 to watch that whole fall apart.
I don't mean to laugh, but yeah.
No, but right?
Yes.
And I heard.
It was incredible. As New Yorkers,
and I'm a Yankee fan. I'm watching it. I'm like, what the?
I said, what is going on? Calvin Schiraldi and
yes.
My God. Yeah. Go ahead,
yes. Jack. No, Schiraldi. And I actually saw a thing on MLB Network. It's Bob Costas. They're going over game, they're going over the game 6. And I met Buckner one time, and he was a sweetheart. He's a really nice guy, and he's at a hot stove. He's a borderline Hall of Fame player. He had a great career.
Yes. Great career.
Great career.
He actually, forget it. We'll talk later about that.
Right, but he's up there, and he has to tell a little bit of, okay, I know you're all going to want to know, how did the missed ground ball affect me, blah, blah, blah. So I ask a million people, because I got a big mouth, you know that. So I go like, hey, what was the score when he missed the ground ball? Oh, it was like a 4-run error. And I'm like, no. The score was already tied. Yes. Bob Stanley's already wild pitched the tie and run in.
Correct.
That was the winning run, but you don't know if it goes to extras whether Boston, having been so demoralized, even makes it in, scores another run.
Yeah. That's right.
But on this little sit down, Costas in the group, he's got Calvin Schiraldi, and to his credit, they're like, Calvin, how do you feel now? He goes, I feel terrible. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I feel terrible because Buckner took the brunt of this. People forget I was 2 strikes on several batters and couldn't get through it.
I think 3. Carter,
3.
Mitchell,
3.
Carter, Mitchell, and who was the other person?
Well, I remember Keith Hernandez flew out. Who was the other out? He got out right off the bat, 2 outs. The famous story of Kevin Mitchell is he's down to naked in the dugout.
Or
in the clubhouse, and they're like, hey, you're up. And he's pulling on clothes to go hit. And he comes in and gets a hit. And what was it? Knight was the winning run. Mookie hits the ball. Right. Yeah. They went to Spartanburg Methodist in South Carolina. So anyway, that's tragic. So this is a long answer to 2004. I'm not going to lie to you. You guys aren't going to believe this. I watched the whole 4 days in October thing they did on that comeback, whatever was that documentary. But something
Right.
stuck with when it went 3-0 and 22-7 or whatever that score was.
Yeah.
Something in my mind said they're about as screwed up a group enough to probably come back and do something with this. And
Yeah.
you see the famous Kevin Millar talking to, I believe it was Shaughnessy with the Boston Press. And he goes, don't let us win tonight. Don't let us win tonight because we win
I remember
tonight.
that. I remember that.
Petey comes back and then Schill comes back and then we get to game 7. We're going to win it. And it made sense a little bit. And then, and what strikes me too about that team, and I've had some kids that I work with that played for Francona, and I always get, he's involved in the hot foots of other players. You know, he's like that guy. He's he's a first round pick. His dad played in the big league, so he's been around the game all of his life. He's an easy guy to play for. And I remember there was an interview going into game 4, and they're like, "Y'all have a really big team meeting." He goes, "No, they're men. They'll show up." And then they show in this documentary, Ortiz is coming with the heavy Latin music playing. He's dancing around inside the clubhouse. They're down 0-3. And he's acting like nothing ever happened. Then he gets the winning hit. That's on to New York. That's how those guys played. They didn't get uptight. They didn't bitch and moan. They just, fought their way back.
I will tell you one thing, Jack. Like I'm a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
I don't hate the Red Sox. I like good baseball. And that's a good team. That's all I can tell you. They were a good team. Pedro's my favorite pitcher of all time. So
I mean, he's up there with me. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have another pitcher. I mean, since he was with Montreal, I was like, "Oh, this dude is." That's from Montreal. I was like, because I thought in '94 they were going to win the World Series.
They probably would have.
I don't care if they were playing Jesus, Abraham, and Joseph. They'd have won that World Series in 4 games. I thought they were the best team in baseball far and away at that point in time. So, and the Yankees were good, but I think they were far and away a better team than us. I think, as always, Cardinals were pretty good then.
Yeah.
They're always pretty good. So, but I thought they were the best team in baseball. I actually have a Montreal hat somewhere. Dude's laughing because I got the old school Montreal hat somewhere in here. So, but yeah, I liked Poppy. I thought you guys had a really good lineup. I think the biggest player that probably doesn't get enough Boston love is Nomar Garciaparra. I don't think people because he's
funny.
A bad boy. That dude was a bad boy.
You know what's crazy? I just watched the thing. It's funny you say that. 03, he's there. 04, he's gone. They win it.
Yeah.
And people forget he was the most impactful guy of his era there for a while.
Boy,
and
Mm-hmm.
I actually watched a little mini documentary thing on the fall of Nomar, and I went back. It's like, damn, son of a gun, he was amazing. Like what he was doing. I remember him being good, but you kind of wonder if he'd maintained it, how much better would they have been going forward? But
things happen. But he was a bad boy when he was there, though. He didn't let them down as a player. I think like a lot of guys, injuries and other things kind of wore on him, but he was a bad dude. When he was at 100%, no more was a monster.
From my perspective, I'll throw some at you. I tell you who I love for you guys is Bernie Williams.
Oh, yeah, Bernie's the man.
Bernie played it right. Everybody, and I've known some kids that, like I said, I've worked with in pro ball that said the classiest human being they ever met was Mariano Rivera. Everybody says that. Everybody goes, "Oh my gosh." He was just like nice to everybody. Would go in the bullpen and show you how he threw his cutter. I always loved him. And I mean, this is from the other side. I always loved it's America. It's Boston, New York. It's a rivalry with a lot of kids from around the world playing. So much of a Latin influence on our team. That whole Ortiz and Manny in the middle. The only 3-4 have ever been as productive was a guy named Ruth and Garrett. That's what those dudes were.
And in New York, it was really important because, he was from Jackson. I mean,
Max Danny's from the city,
Yeah. So in high school, dudes knew, like if dudes that you met would tell you, like, yo, we knew in high school. But the baseball in New York City, it's a weird thing. Like I played in high school, Kev played in high school. Let me tell you, man, when my son played, I got a son that played college basketball, and he went to VMI.
Yeah.
When he was kids, we were kids. He was a kid. I took him to a league up in Dykeman to play. 7 years old, 6 years old. right? Down here in North Carolina, they got these machines that pitch to the kid at 6. Those kids were pitching to each other at 6 years old. And like they called them Big Cecil, because his son was big. And that year was probably his greatest year in growth period. And it's weird because he was so young. But yeah, they would leave him on kids would cry, right? Because they got hit. They're kids, they're little kids.
Right.
They leave him on the mound.
Yeah.
They go talk to him, say what they're gonna say. Yo, okay, man, you gotta do that. Okay? Go out suave and walk back. And my wife's like, oh, he's crying. And then I said, then my son gets to an inning. Then he gets, if he had played baseball, I'd be rich right now.
Right.
Because he's a 6'4" lefty, big, strong. But, North Carolina's funny with baseball, and he didn't want to play because there were no other black kids out here playing. And I'm like, God damn it, I hate you. But, it was what it was. But the reality is that, baseball is a sport that teaches you so much, man.
It's a tough game.
If you are on the mound and things aren't going well for you, your coach may come out there and say something to you, maybe. Somebody on your team may come out there and say something to you, maybe. But none of it matters because
right.
You getting this next guy out is in your head.
That's right. That's right.
In your head, and you have to have the determination to do so. And that's why I love it. That's why I love it, right? Because you have to stand in there and do it. And as the hitter, your job is to stand there and make sure that doesn't happen, So the mano a mano is it's not like the football mano a mano, but it is a sure enough mano a mano,
100%.
So
well, it's like I tell people all the time that very thing. I said, you and I are playing corner and safety, and I bite the fake, and you come across and get an interception. Nobody in the stands knows that I got burned on the first move.
right.
Like but if I'm pitching and I leave the ball at the middle of the plate, it gets hit 6 miles. Everybody's pretty sure who gave up the home run. Like it's one of those things you can't hide. It's an exposure. You strike out with the bases loaded. You struck out with the bases loaded. And I had a friend of mine that played pro ball, and he's a college coach now. We were at a camp, and I hope this doesn't I hope this doesn't offend the listeners, but anyway, some kids went by playing another sport. Let's put it. That was soccer. So these soccer kids walked by, and he goes, "You know why the kids play soccer?" I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because they run from one field to the next, back and forth. They're very tired at night. Their moms feel good about it. Their moms don't feel good about them playing baseball because when they're up to play with the bases loaded and strike out, Timmy doesn't feel good about himself. So they don't like that." And I'm like, I think there's probably some truth to that. Many people that I've heard say, I had a bad experience in baseball and I quit. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And it's tough.
It's a mental thing.
It's a very tough game.
Yes, it's a mental game. And I told somebody just the other day, I says, baseball is the hardest thing. The baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports, in my opinion. You have less than whatever, blah, blah, blah seconds to make your mind up whether you're going to swing or just let it go. And that's tough. So some people who are athletes, that hand-eye coordination, it's either you have it or you don't. So Jack, let me ask you this quick question.
Yes, sir.
So we talked about baseball and we talked about how how you coach. What do you think? So we live in a landscape now in America, in the U.S., where football is king now, right? And,
I think so. Yeah,
football is king, and then it's probably NBA and then baseball. How can we? And I think me and you talked about this when the tables played. How can baseball get back? I think they're doing a little bit things now, but how can baseball get back in the eyes of the people for more, or is it lost? Or
well,
because you're talking to two guys who love baseball, Pierre. Like I said,
yeah,
first love, man. So and I see it's yours too.
There's like no conspiracies coming when he asked me. So go ahead.
I think that what I've seen with baseball, what my history has been, it's older than you gentlemen, I think, but I'm at an age where, you pretty much saw kids grow up in the inner city, play in New York, grow up on the farms, play out there in the country, play stick ball in the streets, play the country sport, but everybody got a shot at doing it. So I think one thing that's hurt in America is, and everybody dumps on them, but it's the travel ball phenomenon, because the kids are being identified as 4-star, 5-star, however many, whatever, when they're 11 years old. And when they're 11 years old, that's not the time to decide if the kid's going to be a prospect one day. It's not quite there yet. It's going to take some time, but it's getting some kids that are athletic out of it. Some of the things, DA, you mentioned as well, it's kind of heartbreaking to me. Black kids just aren't playing anymore. Because I grew up in a county that was 50-50 black, white, and I used to play, as Kevin, I mentioned to you last time, the guys that took me in and played when I played baseball out in the country with a lot of black gentlemen. I used to be at nightclubs out there, 200 black folks and myself, and I was taken into that world. And all of those guys had a love of baseball because of their fathers and their fathers. Mm-hmm. And this is not far probably removed from the Negro Leagues. I mean, there was probably a lot of the guys. And I used to run into some older gentlemen that played in the Negro Leagues. And then what happened, and this is never really discussed a lot in the whole legacy of integration of baseball, is how much was lost in the black community, even though integration to the sport seems wonderful. But all the black writers were pretty much out, the stadiums, all the people that worked in the structure of that. And then it became whatever black players were in the Negro Leagues at the time flooded into professional baseball. But it ended almost like a minor league system.
Yes, it did.
Right. So all that comes into play. So what's happened, I think, is baseball, and I can understand why. I mean, team I'm coaching right now, Virginia Beach, we've got kid from Venezuela, 2-3 from Panama, ton from Dominican Republic, some of them by way of New York. And we got a white kid here from North Carolina. We got a white kid from Washington State. It's a beautiful team. I mean, it's a rainbow. It's a rainbow. We got a lot of kids, all of God's children, different shades of God's children, and they're from all over the place, and it works. Now I got one kid, because how I've never picked up Spanish, I don't know, but I got one kid I really got a language barrier with, but I'll grab one of the Dominican kids and I'll say, hey, help me out. I'm talking to this kid, but it all works. We get along. But what we're seeing is Major League Baseball is making a great investment into Latin America. It has been for some time.
Yeah.
And the other dynamic is Asian. You're seeing you're seeing the Japanese player, and I'm okay with that. But I wish we were back to every kid could go at 8 in their community and sign up for Little League and play baseball.
Yes.
But I also do think, we talked about this last time, Kevin, I do think in today's culture, a lot of kids see baseball as being very boring.
We talked about that. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of it. It's a boring sport.
It's not cool.
Yeah.
It's not cool. It's not flashy like basketball or, being a 5-star in the NFL or whatever, or high school, whatever. Go ahead, DA.
My problem, the way I've seen it is this, and I agree 100%, Jack. I think I will throw in the conspiracy of, I think the media doesn't want baseball to be there because they don't cover it the way they're supposed to. I mean, stations that have baseball on their station don't talk about the baseball games in the entire morning. Like, they won't talk about baseball, but game of the week. That doesn't make sense to me, right? Unless something big happens. So to me, like anything else, it's like a record playing. If the record plays a lot on the radio, whether people like it or not, they'll start doing this and nodding their head to it. You got to talk about baseball the way we used to talk about baseball. They replaced that with talking about the Lakers twice, right? So rather than talking about the Lakers and then some baseball and then some football, they'll just talk about the Lakers twice, right? And that kind of takes baseball out of being front of mind. So that's one piece of it that's bad. 2 is what Jack said is 100% right. I told you, Kev, his name is Jack too. My boy Pete, he's from Boston actually. He's an ex-Marine. He's like one of my mentors, but we're kind of the same age, man. Right? So his son is 11, Jack, and he's playing travel ball. And I said, "Yo, Pete, how many games did he play last year?" You're 11. He said 61 games. I said, what? I said, what? I said, why is he playing 61 games like that? He said, well, his team is really good. And I said, but you don't get a chance to get better in between games. You only get better if you get some time off to kind of reflect back on what you did, right? So if the swing's not level, right? You're going to need a minute to get your swing level again. Because if you're trying to get it level for the next at bat, it's not going to happen. It's just not, because you're not, it's body mechanics. It won't happen. Adrenaline. The reason you are not swinging right the first time will be if you get up 3 more times that game, you'll probably have a hitch in your swing the next 2 or 3 times up, right? Until you get a chance to have somebody sit with you or someone sit with you on the bench. Say, look, man, come on out, come over here. This is what you're doing. This is what we need to do. So you don't really get better, right? And I watch all these Instagram videos of these kids in the Dominican Republic, and I'm looking at the kids standing on a tire, right? On a tire with something that, looks like a bat. It's probably a stick, hitting bottle caps that his coach is throwing at him.
Yeah. Yeah.
From 20 yards. No, hitting bottle caps. I say that to say when my son was playing in that Dominican League, the dude said, you know what I do, D? He said, yo, my son, he lays in the room with the ceiling fan, and I got a red piece of tape at the bottom, and it goes around. And my son follows that red tape. So when he gets older, he can follow the red on the ball, or he knows what pitch is coming. These kids are 5, right? So it's not necessarily playing games. It's training. It's getting better. It's doing things to get better. Balance. Don't lift your front foot. Keep your weight on your back leg. All these things happen when you're standing on a freaking tire with no shoes on. You're taking swings. Like these things, it's like it's weird, but it works. And so what happens is when we have that travel ball thing up against regular PAL, community league baseball, the kids that do want to play, they don't feel right because they're not in that. Mm-hmm. They're not in the travel thing. They're just playing Little League baseball. But when we were kids, every pro we know came out of Little League.
Yeah.
And then you go to Pony League, you get better than someone sees you in high school. Yeah. The high school baseball coach in a lot of places doesn't even matter anymore.
You're right.
So it's hard to get kids to play because they got even the great athletes that play. And there are some, because I still see kids that go to Alabama, play football, and play baseball. So those kids in the deep South, like they still play 2 or 3 sports, and they're good at it. Like Tracy McGrady say he's one of the best pitchers in Florida when he played in high school. So the point I'm making to you is that they're not getting a chance to be seen because the high school coach really doesn't mean nothing. And if you're playing AAU in the summer and not playing travel baseball in the summer, going to some showcase thing that, everybody knows who's going to be there already. So when Bryce Harper was 14, everybody knew he was going to be there. Mm-hmm. Kind of don't matter, if Kevin's there too. Everybody's there to see Bryce. So it's actually when you have those travel things, and it happens in basketball with the AAU and the EYBL and all the rest of that, you have a lot of kids that get pushed out of playing that may not be playing for Boo Williams. You know what I'm saying? Right? So you don't play for Boo Williams in Virginia, no one's really going to know who you are. And that's where it used to be back when I was that whole AAU thing. So, but it also made kids kind of get to a position where they have to be that good. But I think baseball can come back, but it's going to take TV or a network. I don't care which one, not MLB, but a network that plays their game to go all in on baseball. Well, and you'll see, because people still love the game. And you know what? I think the father-son dynamic has hurt it because guys are working too hard. They're not like with me. I got to sit with people and I learned how to do a scorecard. I learned this. I learned that. I learned these things when I was a kid, just sitting watching the game. And I also learned not to talk while the game was going on. But yeah, you learn these things and you start to get an appreciation for them. But you got to have fathers there in the living room with the kids to do this. So it'll take a lot, but I think it can happen. So, and the last reason why, and I do this with soccer, because I'm I got a big soccer thing that I go into with America, but any game that's cheap to play, everybody should be able to play. So when we're kids, all we need was a bat and a ball. Didn't really even need a glove. So baseball should be really popular. Football's popular, basketball, you got to have but things that just need a ball and a bat or punch ball, your ball in your hand, whatever it takes. It's the same type of game. They should be accessible to everyone. You don't even need a baseball field to play baseball. All you need is three garbage bags on the floor, and those are your bases. So that we should be able to get it back to where it needs to be. It's going to take people that love the game to do it. That's all.
But DA, I think a lot of it though is we're of a culture. We commonly, three of us, aged a little bit different, but we grew up in an America that, we talk about the race, the ethnicity, the region. We love Lou Brock. We love Bob Gibson.
Yep.
Carl Yastrzemski, a Polish kid from New York. I mean, all that stuff was in the mix. And then we knew a Latin American player, and we started to see that dynamic. I just think a lot of American kids today see it as a sport that's being taken over by kids that have a greater passion. Now, I did a show a few days ago with one of my favorite people. I mean, oh my God, I love this guy so much. Gil Florentino. He's from the DR. He went to high school with Ortiz. He sent me a picture the other day with Pujols. He knows everybody, all these guys that kind of grew up in that environment. And he said to me the other day, he goes, Jack, what are the odds that in Santo Domingo, in the neighborhood he grew up in, that there would be 4 Hall of Famers, 200 All-Star games among all these players in a 5-mile radius? And he's right. Yeah. He's talking about a part of the Dominican Republic that's produced that level of talent. And he told me, Jack, we never had a ball. He goes, I can remember taping up the doll's head of one of the little girls in the neighborhood. We would take sticks. We would hit rocks. We would hit whatever. Then when we finally got equipment, we would play the neighborhood kids the next neighborhood over. It was about pride. It was about playing unity. So it's really heartwarming stories, right? And you start to see why these guys, and I do think it's part of, in the Dominican culture of players, is when they come to the United States, they want to prove they're the best players.
Yes.
I mean, I get it, and you always wonder about Cuba too, right? The guys that have got out of Cuba that have walked right into the big leagues. So we're talking 30 teams, was that 700, and that would be 780 players in the major league on an active roster.
Mm-hmm.
You got about an active roster worth of Cuban guys.
Yeah.
And they're in the country trying to get on a raft and come out. How many players in Cuba could play in the big leagues?
Yeah, I knew El Duque. So he used to live right across the street from where we worked at, Kev, downtown in New York. And he would walk by, smoke a cigarette every day and stop with us and talk. And I was like, he didn't know what the hell he was saying.
Right.
He didn't speak English well at all.
Right.
But my boy would, Adam, remember Adam from Egypt? Big Adam used to be at the dock. He could speak Spanish. And, we talked for a minute, and then he'd keep it moving, man. And it's hard. Yes, I think because, like you say, the way Little League is now, we don't have those kids. It'd be one kid per neighborhood that really loves baseball.
Yeah. That's
willing to take it to the next level, right? And he'll be the kid on the all-star team somewhere. The rest of the kids will just, play t-ball and then they'll stop unless their fathers played baseball, and kind of make them go on to the next thing. Because where I live at, they'll just play football. They'll just go straight to football. That's the go-to is football.
Well, yeah, same thing down here where I live at in South Florida. Yeah, we just playing football. Jack, to go to your point though, you made a great point about the father-son type of thing and having pride in your community. I absolutely remember growing up in Brooklyn. Like, our crew would play the next crew over, and it would just be something. Yeah. I remember my father tells me a story. My father, it could be 81 in July, excuse me. And he used to tell me stories when he grew up in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. There was 10 of them, and he had like 6 brothers. And they and their cousins, it was just the Warren clan, and they would play other neighborhoods, and they would just, like you said, do it for pride, man. And it's great. And I remember the first time he took me to a baseball game. I remember the first time he threw a baseball to me. And like you said, the passion, even of the people in Latin America, where, DA always talks about desperation, man, how people are playing out of desperation. And like you said, man, I don't know if we have that anymore with baseball, but I'm with DA too with the whole baseball thing. Even Rob Manfred said it, what was it, 2 weeks ago? He said he wants somebody to cover his sport, man. And the 4-letter network, which I really don't really like, they, like he said, I strongly believe that they, for whatever reason, they don't like baseball, but they buy the games and show the games, and then when I look at all their shows, which I really don't, they talk about the Lakers 2 or 3 times. They talk about LeBron. They talk about the Cowboys, and that's pretty much it. And other NFL teams, and everything else is on the ticker. That's just my point. But
Look, I remember when baseball was front and center on ESPN.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I remember when Joe Morgan and all those guys would be on Sunday night games.
Yes.
You know, I'm like, come on, dude.
I love Joe Morgan so much.
Like, come on, dude. Like, I know everybody got behind the chicks dig the long ball thing with McGuire and these dudes just to bring the game back after the strike. That's fine. I'm not mad about it because the reality is at the time it was done, it was not illegal.
It worked.
It worked. Hey, yeah, sure, Jack.
It did work.
It worked, right?
It did work.
Now, and Barry might have took it a little bit further than people wanted, but that was a bad dude. Like
he was the baddest. He was the baddest.
Yeah, I can almost think like, you know what, man, we may just need to wipe this out and put him in anyway. Because if I hear Maddox tell another story about how he was not pitching to that man or trying to not pitch to that man, I'm just gonna, it cracks me up. But baseball is full of characters, probably more than any other sport that I can remember. Where you have like just straight up characters, man, dudes that were funny, dudes, even the guys that, baseball had dudes that wouldn't talk to the press.
Eddie Murray.
They were stars, but these dudes were stars. Name me another sport where you don't talk to the press and you're a star.
Yeah.
Steve Carlton didn't talk to nobody. They all get the finger. Everybody catches a finger from him.
Eddie Murray.
Yeah. Steve Carlton going to go down as one of the best left-handed pitchers to ever throw a ball.
Though, I think another thing about, we talk about the whole baseball thing, when you grow up in it, and I've just been so heavily immersed because of I played in college, and then I got an opportunity to work with a lot of heavy hitters in baseball. Really big people in the game, and really up the chain, the nicest people I've met often were the ones that played in the big leagues. And were successful big leaguers. I think there's humility about knowing that you were that blessed,
right, that
makes them some really special people. But I was down in spring training a couple years ago. It was during the season. It was a double-A game. I was in Richmond. I was watching the Flying Squirrels, double-A for the Giants. And I was with a friend, and it just got to be a runner at third, one out. And this female friend, and I said, he's going to pitch around this guy. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, he's not going to throw any strikes at this guy. He's going to take the chance that he puts him on at first. He's going to get a ground ball double play and be out of it. She goes, well, why would he put him on? I said, well, he's not going to intentionally put him on, but he's going to pitch around the edges.
Yeah.
So boom, 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 3-1 misses, ball 4. Next pitch, or 2 pitches later, ground ball to short, second, flipped. She's like, how did you know that? And I said, because the upside for him there was to not have the guy hit the ball well enough with 1 out to put it in the air, put it through the infield, or hit it to the right side.
Right.
And the only reason I tell this story is not to say, I was stumping the chump or I'm the smartest guy, but that's how baseball people think, or at least they're thinking about. And for most fans, they're like, I didn't see a home run, I don't care. Or I didn't see a 106-mile-an-hour fastball strikeout, I don't care. And I'm eating it up. I'm eating it up. Every pitch, I'm like, okay, he's going to nibble here. Or I'm all the time up to 1 count. They're going to start the runner. They're going to start the runner. And you're thinking, if you're a baseball person, you got investment in every pitch. You literally do.
Yeah.
And for people that aren't baseball people, they're not seeing the same game.
No. Yeah, eating frankfurters, and I'm looking at stop talking. Yeah,
and that's okay for them, And I think baseball, it partly too. So my boy Roop up here that played with the Rangers, man, when he came up in Double-A, he was in the Texas League, so he was in Frisco. So I had done a camp one time with Tom House with Nolan Ryan when they were in Round Rock before they went Triple-A with that stadium. But my point is, all of these Texas League stadiums throughout the state of Texas were amusement parks. So when I got there, they got a slide for the kids over here, and they got waterfalls over here. And then I'm looking at these places. When he played, I guess it was in Frisco. I think when Josh was in Frisco, they have this little, Texas small town, almost like the Wild West thing throughout the state. Anyway, it's all these distractions. And when you talk to minor league people who have been very successful at selling it to young families and the rest, it's entertainment outside the baseball. People aren't at some level, I think even going to the game for the game, they're going to occupy their kids' minds for a couple of hours, and
Yeah.
And I'm not as big a fan of that because my first experience with pro baseball was Parker Field in Richmond AAA, and it was wooden bleachers and popcorn, and some elderly people drank some beers. But I mean, there was no amusement park aspect to it all. But you know what? I'm sitting there like, that guy's in AAA. That's AAA baseball.
Yeah.
Those are men playing. They're throwing it really hard, running fast. I want to be one of them one day. I wasn't thinking about what clown was behind me up there trying to entertain me. You know what I mean? So, I'm not looking for clowns and streamers and stuff. I'm looking like what's going on in the field. And I don't think the kids have the same reverence for the game and who played it anymore.
Well, listen, I'll go first, D, because I know you're going to get into that. Yeah, Jack, you're absolutely right. They don't have the reverence for it. I was talking to somebody about talking about stadium tours and how I said, well, been in New York. I said, probably next time I go to New York, I'm gonna try to go to City Field. I have not been there yet. And they say, yeah, they got stuff for the kids. They can play, shoot basket. I said, yo, you at a baseball game. Why are we shooting basket at a baseball game? Why we have to have laser tag? Why we have to do all that stuff? Why you not sitting in a seat like DA said and got your pen and your pad? And like you said, I learned how to do a scorecard too when I was probably 8, 9.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, that was 3. That was 5, 4, 6 double play.
Yeah,
right. I said, man, we have to be. It's almost. I wish my brother was on here because he would say, man, we always need the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey, to just get people to just do the regular stuff, man. And it's like you said, it's so they don't. I don't. Well, we are old guys, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I don't feel like it, but yeah,
I don't.
But it's just so frustrating, man. Especially the way you got this device in your hand where you can just look up stuff. You be like,
yeah.
Hey man, Reggie Jackson, Harmon Killebrew and stuff like. Who's that? Who's
like
Reggie?
I said, characters that you will never, ever, ever, ever see in other
Who's
sports.
Sparky Lau?
Ricky Henderson talked about himself in the third person, man.
Yes, he did.
Okay. There's not. Look. Come on, man. Looking at Ricky Henderson's stats, who doesn't believe he could have been a running back if he wanted to? That
Greatest
man was
greatest leadoff batter ever.
Hands down.
Love Ricky. Love Ricky.
My question is this, Jack. All right,
yes, sir.
It's a conspiracy, and I see these things on TV sometimes, and I think God's blessed me to see things that nobody else sees. Because when I say something about it, people think I'm bugging out. Okay. So, 25 years ago on Real Sports, when it first started on HBO, there was a dude, and he was, I forget his name, but he was a pitching coach. And he taught kids a new way to pitch. It was a new windup. He did something funky with the arm and whatever.
Was it Mike Marshall?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I remember.
Why didn't anybody do that?
Because I know a lot about Mike Marshall because of my friend Tom House. Mike Marshall pitched in the big leagues. Matter of fact, he had the record for most appearances in a season. He hurt his arm early, and as I raised my arm up here, he said that the safest way to throw was to go into total pronation early.
God damn it, Jack.
Right. So, but his lower half mechanics and a lot of what he taught, he was basically saying everyone's thrown the ball incorrectly for the last 150 years.
Yes, sir.
However, there have been a lot of successful pitchers that probably didn't follow exactly. But he was a very smart guy. He had a PhD in kinesiology. He had a PhD in the sciences. He was a bright guy, and he passed away here a few years ago. And God love him. He did a lot of good things, I think, for baseball. But he had most of his followers, though, were injured guys.
Okay.
So some of them, there was one guy, and it was probably 20 plus years ago, or at 20 years ago, really had some success and then said he was blackballed out because he was a Marshall guy and that kind of thing went on. But there is definitely a go, no go as to what you teach and what you say. There are things that are considered outside. If you're a Maverick, my friend House, for example, when he started doing the football throwing with pitchers, with the Rangers, Oh, I remember people when I knew it, people would go like, that idiot's out there throwing football. Every Division I bullpen has footballs in them now. Everybody's throwing the football. But Tom told me one time, you know what made it easier to sell it? Because he found that when you throw football and go into pronation, it's the proper arm spiral to create the connection. So if you can make the football, and I have tons of footballs here, but when you make the football happen, it's 15 ounces versus 5. It's an overload. It teaches good throwing mechanics. You know who bought in? Nolan Ryan. So when Nolan started throwing the football, guess what? Everybody else wanted to. All the other pitchers weren't looking around going, well, if Nolan's going to do it, I'll do it. But my point is, now something that's accepted wasn't. So baseball is very funny about who gets to speak and who can say certain things and whether it's controversial when it comes to the instruction end of it. But I think Marshall was in large part, I think he was absolutely right as to some parts of it. And some of his training, some people have said, was very good as to preventing arm injuries.
I'm writing that down, Jack, man. Man, brother, you're my brother from another mother forever.
God love you, brother. I'm right with you.
If you ever need me up there in VA, I'm coming.
Well, tell me when you're coming down this way. We'll catch up. I owe you a steak and a beer. We're gonna have some good times together.
You don't know how many times I said that, and dude's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I'm like, "Dude, you guys didn't watch that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I thought like it was me and freaking what's his name, Gumble, just me and him, because no one else ever could talk about. Like, I swear, I felt like it was a conspiracy. I felt like everybody's like, "Yo, when Dorian says anything, tell me you didn't see it. It didn't happen. It didn't happen." And I remember watching it, and I was like, oh, "Man." Because I'm a kid. I'm like, yo, this is it. This is it. Because they're telling kids now to get the Tommy John surgery before they get hurt now. So we have to figure out something, right? Because that's not right. You're telling these kids to get cut before they even injure themselves.
Well, I have both House and I have another throwing arm expert buddy of mine. And, he said he was asked one time, I did a show with him. He goes, I commonly get asked, what's the leading cause of pitching injuries? And he said, throwing. Because if no one were to ever throw, they'd never get hurt. But then if you want to ask me other things about it, I think a lot of the science would say it's year-round throwing. Now, Kevin, you know where I'm going to go with this because this is my thing. All right, you gentlemen are younger than I am, but when I'm on YouTube the other day. I got to throw this one out there. I'm on YouTube the other day, and I go through and what pops up because they know what I'm looking for. 1986 Celtics Lakers, and I'm watching that, and I'm like, I don't give a rat's ass what anybody says. Those guys were better. It's Jabbar, Johnson, Bird, McHale, Parrish, and I'm watching. Am I wrong, or were those players astronomically better? And it wasn't like they were all 6'1". So am I missing something, or are they more pleasing to the eye? Is the game just different now? Because I'm also going to translate it to baseball and football. And the reason I'm saying all this is they all played multiple sports.
Bingo.
Danny Ainge was an all-state quarterback that got a cup of coffee in the big leagues and was a pretty damn good NBA basketball player.
I think he was in the Toronto Blue Jays organization.
Yes, I saw him playing AAA when I talked about being in Richmond. I'm sitting there one night with one of the high school teachers that had seats all the time. And she goes, hey, see the guy at third? I'm like, yeah. She goes, he's an all-American basketball player. She goes, yeah, he's with BYU. They'll go deep this year in the play. I'm like, that guy right there. And she goes, yeah. So he's hitting 115. He ends up going to big leagues. He doesn't hit very well. Jay Schrader, third overall pick in the Major League Baseball draft. Washington Redskins, Raiders, a little bit of Cardinals time, but could throw a football 85 yards. Elway had some time with the Yankees and ripped it up in the New York Penn League. And it's a left-handed hitting outfielder that could steal bases. And Bo, when we see Bo
knows
baseball, football. But, the guy's incredible talent. I don't see – and I know – DA, what you were saying earlier, but there's some kids, especially down the deep south, that dabble in multiple sports.
Yeah, but not.
But they ain't Bo Jackson.
Yeah. No, and because in 20, you would know this, Jack. I would say 2004. There was a new industry that came and rushed America. It was the training of children, building centers where you got kids running ladders and doing all of that. I told my kids, listen, and I don't like Urban Meyer. He's not a favorite coach of mine, but he said, I only recruit kids that play more than one sport.
That's right. That's right. I've seen the numbers. Yeah, he does that. Yep.
He said, I don't ever recruit kids that just play football.
Yep.
So if you're a big guy, you better be playing football and wrestling, right? Or if you're, whatever you're doing this and you're doing that. Why? Because of the stability, those stability muscles in your ankles and feet, side-to-side muscles get developed playing other sports.
That's right.
Right. And you rest the muscles that you're using to tackle, like, because you can't tackle all year round, dude. That's why these kids aren't making it today. Because they're tackling all year round. They're goddamn crazy by the time they get there. Because it's too much.
7-on-7 all year round.
You can't do it, man. But see, the big dudes don't get to play 7-on-7.
Yeah, that's right.
So what do they got to do? They got to do one-on-one drills where they're actually hitting. Not so much tackling, but they're hitting. You can throw on the shoulder. You can do a bunch of other things doing that stuff. Hurt yourself, ankles, knees, whatever. Rather than wrestling and learning to do the same damn thing, but not hurting your knees, not running, not doing that. You're running. You're going to run if you wrestle. But, there's other things that you can learn. So, yeah, I think America and its specialization of each sport is killing us. You got to play everything, man. Just be a kid. My thing is let them be a freaking kid. How about that? Let your kid be a kid.
But I'm just asking you, gentlemen, because, again, I've got some years on you, but am I looking at, does everything, right. It looks more pleasing to me. When I see Montana, when I see Marino, when I see the guys from back then, don't get me wrong, Brady was sexy. That was good. But there's just and Jaden Daniels, I gotta admit, I'm partial because it's DC now, but that kid really looks special. But I don't see the player today looking to me, but I don't know whether it's I'm in an age range where that looked the way it did because I was of their age, and now as I get older, everything looks different. They look like kids.
Yeah, well, I think it brought players at that point in time closer together in their skill sets because they all played a lot of different sports. So
I agree
you did not have a guy that was, not saying better, because Jordan was better, right? But you didn't have a guy running so much faster than everyone else that it didn't look natural. Right. So when LeBron came into the league, it almost didn't look natural. Him at 6'7", 6'9", whatever he is, 275 pounds, running this way, doing that, right? It almost didn't look natural because everybody else looked soft, or they couldn't do it, and they couldn't run that way, or they get hurt if they run that way, or something else. And I'm not saying they were soft, but because they didn't play a lot of different sports, a lot of kids, and I mean at a high level, because Draymond Green will say, "Yeah, I was on the football team." Dog, they put you there. You were never going to play. And you wasn't a threat to get on the field at Michigan State. But yeah, you're 6'8" dude. Maybe they thought maybe you could be like the dude that went to San Diego to the what's his name? The tight end for San Diego that went to Gates.
Antonio Gates was a basketball player, and walks out.
But you
Hall of Famer.
But you weren't a two-sport athlete.
No.
So
right.
That's kind of where I think it is, because I think that two-sport athlete thing kind of brings the crowd a little closer together in their skill sets, because you didn't do basketball all year long. You did something else.
Another guy that I think people, and I know you guys will, I think, agree. Dion, we talked about Bo, but another guy people really forget about, Brian Jordan played in the All-Star game.
Brian Jordan was a bad dude, man.
He was a bad dude. University of Richmond, New York kid, but went to University of Richmond. He played in the All-Star game and the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
And I don't know that a lot of people don't bring him up, but I'm like, damn.
Brian Jordan was a bad dude for the Braves, man. And you know what I'm saying, and played
for the Cardinals, right?
Cardinals,
Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons.
Yeah, he played with the Falcons and he played with Dion.
Yeah.
They played back in the same defensive backfield together. He was a safety and a pretty big hitter, pretty big guy to play safety, big guy.
And he played for the St. Louis Cardinals. Did he? I'm trying to remember. I know it was
he played for the Braves, and I think he might have gone to St. Louis. Yeah, played with St. Louis for a while. Yeah.
But I know Eric Davis played more than one sport. I know Ken Griffey Jr. played more than one sport. Like, these guys are just athletes. And I think it's a lot easier for the sport of baseball for kids to follow along and I guess become fans if they see a guy doing multiple things.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to start with baseball, right? But it could end up with baseball. So, you could, I like Griffey. And I saw him at a basketball game. He playing basketball. And then you hear he plays baseball, and then you try to play baseball, and you recognize or see you have some talent for the game. I don't think it's something that can't be done, But those are all things I think that take us back to that putting baseball kind of higher up on the sports lexicon in 2025. Because right now, like I said, the doggone channels that carry the sport don't even tell people they're carrying the sport. So it's just a real weird situation, man. Damn, Tom Marshall. Golly gee, boy.
Yeah.
30 years I've been waiting for that, man.
Well, it took you for tonight to get it, right? Jack, let me switch up a little bit. Let's go to the gridiron, man. The Commanders. Let's talk about the name and all that stuff. Your thoughts on the Washington. Well, when did you become a fan of the Washington?
I gotta guess I'm in the probably 3 to 4 range, somewhere in that range.
Anybody in Virginia is a Redskins fan, man.
I think I've shown you some of my paraphernalia before, but here's one of my Sonny Jurgensen replica helmets.
Ooh, yeah. Show it off, man. Yeah.
All right, now this I had Sonny sign. That right there is the program cover from October 12th, 1969.
Ooh.
So when the Washington Redskins had adopted the new name, or the stadium had adopted the new name of Robert F. Kennedy Memorial Stadium, the first time they ever played in that was right there. I was there. I have up here my first ticket, Redskins Eagles, says DC Stadium, October 1968. Now, I've had a couple of occasions to see Sonny Jurgensen sign things for me. This is the famous program cover with Vince Lombardi, where he signed it at an autograph show.
Wow.
So I've had some good Sonny time. I got all the.
You got Bobby Mitchell?
I do.
Uh-oh.
I do. I have Bobby Mitchell, and it's funny you mentioned that. My dad was sheriff in town when I was growing up, and a guy went to what I have. It's around here somewhere. I have it under glass. What's funny is 1969. I'm 7 years old, and a guy goes to, if you check this out, the NBA champion or the NBA All-Star game was played in Baltimore. Right. At the Civic Center in 69. And a guy was there from my hometown. Baltimore's another 45 miles up the road from where I grew up. So I'm 70 miles from DC. So I don't know. I just know growing up, the ones I remember, I love Bobby Mitchell. I love Charlie Taylor, Sonny Jurgensen, Sam Huff. Those were the guys that really stuck in my mind. So my dad comes home and said, hey, I ran into so-and-so. He was at the game. Bobby Mitchell was there, it was a gallery. Bobby Mitchell was there to see the basketball game. And he went up to him and said, sir, you mind signing my ticket? And he signed it. And the guy brought it to my dad and said, I know your son loves the Redskins. So I do have a Bobby Mitchell autograph. I do. I do have a Charlie Taylor autograph. I got a bunch of LeVar Arrington stuff here. Gary Clark, I dearly love.
Did you see his son, man? Have you seen LeVar's son?
No, I haven't.
Man.
Plays for Penn State.
Does he really?
Yes.
Okay, I got to check that out. Well,
number 11.
LeVar's a good guy.
Same number as his dad.
Well,
huge.
Well, I'm going to tell you, LeVar was next level big guy.
Yes.
Well, and I've said this to Kevin, the best football player I ever saw, and I've got the towel over here, 21. The best football player I ever saw in person was Sean Taylor. Hands down, not even close.
God bless you.
Yep, he was. Now, on that defense in 2005, I went to the playoff game where he famously got kicked out for spitting on the running back Pittman, but I was at that game. And there's a size of player that you sort of, and you see the guy, the thickness, the height, you see the defensive lineman. LeVar Arrington and DeMarcus Washington were two linebackers listed at about the same size. BS. Like Arrington was twice as big as DeMarcus Washington.
Big dude.
But then when you looked at the safeties and corners, Sean Taylor had that kind of size when they were in the huddle. He looked like a linebacker standing back there with the DBs. But anyway, great team that year, great defense. Brunell led the team to the lowest amount of offense ever in a playoff win. I mean, he must have bounced 16 passes that game, and they still won. But, Portis was good then. They had a good offensive line, and they had a great defense. But, yeah, big fan of LeVar. I was mentioned earlier, Gary Clark from Pulaski, Virginia, JMU. And by the way, the whole Virginia thing, I got a friend of mine from California, right? He's a baseball buddy of mine. He played at Southern Cal. And his father played with the 49ers. So, yeah, and he's got, back in the 60s. So this friend of mine.
$1 million backfield, baby.
Yeah, I know that story. So anyway, I'm out there, and we get into a thing about, kind of matching up on states. And I'm like, hey, man, Virginia's had some players. And he goes, well, who? And I'm like, well, the best one, LT. He goes, no, Lawrence. I'm like, yeah, Lawrence Taylor's from Virginia. You ever heard of Kenny Easley? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, he's Virginia. And then I said, well, you're a 49ers guy. What about Charles Haley? And he goes, no, he's from my father's home county, Campbell County. He went to JMU. Yep. People don't know that he's from Virginia. So, Michael Vick, and I went through all the names. And all the guys on that side of the water say the greatest football player to come out of the area was
Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
I watched Bubba Chuck, and he was when I was down there. I watched him as a kid play.
Yeah,
he's a monster. He was a monster. Like he couldn't stay. He couldn't continue to play football. He'd have changed the game.
He was amazing.
He shook dudes up like he was dribbling. And he had
it's true. I saw the NFL Films documentary. They got Aaron Brooks, they got Ronald Curry, they got Michael Vick, and they're like, guys, he goes, hey, it was Iverson. None of us. Like, all you guys played in the NFL. We don't care. Iverson was better than all of us. And I think the film would suggest that. But Virginia's a crazy place for Bruce Smith, of course, is from the state. Yep. The Barber twins. So we've had a lot of talent.
Whitaker.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Lou Whitaker's from Virginia also.
That's right. He is. Yes, he is.
He's from my mother's hometown, Martinsville, Virginia. Yep.
Well, the funny thing is because they didn't have a pro team. And that's what a kid told me when I was there in school. He said, because we don't have a pro team, we all pros. I said, oh, okay. It's okay if you say so. But, yeah, a lot of cats come out of Virginia, man. In every sport. So.
And then I got my picture here of Secretariat, the greatest athlete to ever come out of Virginia.
The horse.
What's your favorite Washington Redskins Commanders moment?
Wow. That's a biggie. I guess the one that had the biggest effect on me was, I think Reagan's busting the run in the first win in the Super Bowl was probably big for everybody when he took the ball around left and scored the touchdown. But Kevin, as we mentioned last time, I really think in that first Gibbs run, he had such class people, like that whole community. Matter of fact, I was telling somebody the other day, go watch Art Monk and Darryl Green give their induction speeches to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Art Monk, I love my wife. I love my son that announced me. I love my Lord and Savior. I love people. He's just beautiful, right? And then Darryl Green. And like the guys that they played with that stayed in the area, Monty Coleman and Charles Mann. And they were communities. And I, at Redskin camp, the guys I loved, talked to, shook hands with, put arms around, Brian Mitchell, Doc Walker. Doc Walker is beautiful. Like, so there's all these people who came out of that era of the 80s into the 90s that we loved as Redskin fans. And Gibbs, it's like I said, we brought it every year. They were going to be in the playoffs. It's a question of how deep we got.
Yeah.
And then Snyder comes. Well, it's not only on Snyder. The 90s falls apart. Then, of course, it goes into the Snyder era.
Yeah. Well,
so they've cleaned it up a lot. They've definitely cleaned it up.
My son that played football, his quarterback was Joe Gibbs' grandson.
Okay.
Because he lives out here by me, right?
Yeah.
The race team. So the only thing Joe used to tell me, and I did it because the high school team he played for had a bunch of ex-pros kids playing on the football team.
Yeah.
And Joe would say, D, I'll sit with you. He said, but you know the rules. I said, yep, no football. We sit there and watch a whole football game and not talk football. He would teach me about race cars and like what's a restrictor plate and all the rest of that crap, because he was really into it. Like he's really into it. Now,
Yeah,
he watched his grandson, who was an adequate quarterback. Not great, adequate,
right.
pretty good, But dude was never. It's weird. The guys that are pros are not consumed with it. Like they watch the game, like it's a game. And Joe Gibbs would watch the game. He would never tell the coach anything. Oh, that's a bad play. Never, ever, ever. Like we were not allowed between me and him. We couldn't talk football. So, weird dude, but it was cool because it was actually relaxing at practice. And they'd be practicing and we talking about racing cars and what they do and what's a restrictor plate and this, that,
Well,
third,
it's funny. It just struck my mind when you said that. I remember my first coaching experience. I was playing summer ball in college, and then I went out and coached a little league team. Well, it was 12 to 15. And I had one parent that would never say anything but something positive at the end of the game. He'd kind of nod his head, shake my hand, and say something positive. And then I had all these mothers and fathers that had a comment to make. Everything was this, that, and the other. What do you think was the background of the guy that only congratulated me and said something nice?
He played
professional baseball.
Yeah.
And he stayed totally out of it. It's funny you mention that because I've had a lot of friends like that. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some guys that get too much into it. But I do think that's kind of a common trait because I think it becomes like, take Joe Gibbs. Like you say, if he's out at a football game or practice, he won 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he doesn't have to go down there and goose the coach to tell him what to do or whatever.
No.
He's gone ahead and proven his chops in the sport. And, yeah, he just wants to sit and watch.
Yeah, it is weird, but it was cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Good dude, man. And it's funny, the coach's ego wouldn't let him do it, but he also said to me, like, what am I going to ask him? Like, what? I'm not sure. He's like, I'm not sure what to ask him. So I don't ask him anything. I shake his hand and and that's it. Like, he never says anything other than good game, coach, and that, and that's it. And we keep it moving. I said, so really ain't much else to say. I guess he said, nope. And he's like an old Western, like, because he doesn't really like to talk a whole bunch. He doesn't say a whole bunch, man.
Right.
He's not a motor mouth. He's not like me. So I guess he kept me.
Or me.
Yeah, he's not like me because he's like, hey, D.
But I think that there's some people like that. I mean, whatever you are as a coach, I learned this a long time ago. You got to be yourself.
Yeah.
If you're inauthentic, everybody catches on.
Yep.
Yeah, and so if you run your mouth a lot or don't run your mouth a lot or you're quiet, and what you hear about from a lot of the players, well, I asked Brian Mitchell about, when I met Brian Mitchell, and now I've gotten a friend when I went up to get some seats at RFK Stadium. I met this guy, and he's from North Carolina, and he worked with the Redskins, and he's close with Brian Mitchell. So when I meet Mitchell, I said, man, it really shows how great Gibbs was to have that second run and make 2 playoffs. And Brian Mitchell looked at me, and he says, it's like this. There's my dad, and there's Joe Gibbs. Like, that's my guy. He treated me like he was my father. There's my father, and there's,
Mm-hmm.
Then I got another buddy whose brother played defensive back. Brad Edwards he had 2 picks in the Super Bowl against Buffalo. And so I'm real good friends with his brother. Said similar thing.
Yeah.
So like when you're hearing a bunch of grown men refer to a guy in fatherly terms,
yes,
that
good
says
guy.
something. Yeah, it says something. Yeah, because when you go through life, if you think you can trust this leader, you care about the X's and O's. And bringing up LT earlier, the funniest thing about him is Bill Parcells. When those two get together and start telling, man, they love each other.
Yeah,
like it does not end, and it's great. It's a beautiful story because they kind of made each other.
Yes,
absolutely.
They did make each other. Parcells let him play eventually. There's the whole thing about he finally said, you've got to stop cussing me out. You got to stop yelling. And Parcells, okay, do it your own way. He goes, 12 years later, he never said another word to me. And they laugh about that.
Yeah.
But that's what a coach does. He says, I do it my own way, coach, get off my back. And Parcells like, okay, you're going to run the defense your own way. Just don't make a mistake. If you do, we're going to talk about it. And, but I love the two of them together.
Didn't make many mistakes. So.
No, they didn't. Let me ask you this, Jack, the present day Washington team. thoughts. We talked about, it's phenomenal. I'll just say this as a Giant fan, and being in the NFC East, man,
right.
It's great to see that the Redskins are competitive again. They don't have that black cloud of the former owner. We actually did a episode of the worst owners professional sports, and he was our number one right there.
He's up there.
Where's Jerry now? Where was Jerry Jones?
He's up there too.
Jerry was 2. I think he had.
Was he 2?
Yes.
The thing with Jerry is this, man. This is the reality. He wants to win.
Yeah,
he doesn't know how to win.
Sit down, Jerry.
Yeah, he wants, it's like almost like a George Steinbrenner, right? You want to win, but you have no godly idea how to do it within the parameters that you have.
The suspension.
You still think it's 94.
Yeah.
And you got, the team that you had, and you can talk and do this and do that and do the other thing. And it works. It doesn't work now. It just doesn't work today. That's all.
So I would just say this, Jack. It was great to see the Redskins competitive again. Your thoughts on the Redskins and the Commander, whatever they call them. Commanders. What's your thoughts on the present day team?
Well, I've been looking a little bit at the roster as they've maintained it, what they're going to try to get in the draft and all of that. I felt like last year, another plug for a guy that, I don't know, some guys capture your heart as a fan. Terry McLaurin, I felt so bad for because he's such a class act. He's an upper tier wide receiver that gets ranked 15th all the time because he's had poor quarterbacks throwing to him. You can
change,
right? Well, he's got the guy now. He's got his man now, and Daniels, you can't say enough positive about. I think I really like Brian Robinson. I realized what he had to overcome. First year with the shooting and all of the rest.
Yes.
I think they're going to probably try to get a little bit more action there at the running back. They're going to try to find some more things. Eckler did a great job. The offensive line, and I know the injury. Yeah, it could be. But my concern is going to be now with Cosme. That wasn't a good injury in the playoffs. That was bad. He got rolled up on, and I don't know what the extent has been on that, but he was, of course, out for the game and then out for that made the season as they finished up. But, here's the thing. A player is 20% of your offensive line within those 5 guys, right? So you get 2 players better, theoretically you just got like 40% better in the line. So if you plug and play and make some changes, they were a lot better than before. Ertz, I think, is going to be back. Maybe they find another kind of playmaking tight end type. They get a guy here and there. Defense, the guys, Luvu, I loved. I love Luvu. I love Fowler. Bobby Wagner is the McLaurin of the defense. He's that guy. And I really liked, what was the other kid that played safety? I hope he's back.
The other kid's not. So I think the cornerback is not. I think he's
not going to be back. Yeah. Okay, the really physical kid. I really liked him. So yeah. So
but you lost. What's his name? D tackle. Hand is still there, right? Deron.
Yeah, Deron Payne's still there.
He's still there, but Jonathan Allen's out.
Yeah, Allen skipped town. Yeah. So now this Armstrong kid did a really good job last year.
Okay, so they're probably going to slide him in.
Marshawn Lattimore's going to be back.
Okay.
Sanastill, the kid from Michigan, had a really good year.
Yes, he can play.
I like
he's
that
a young kid too, man.
Yes, he is. Yeah, rookie last year.
Yeah, he's a strong kid. So
yeah,
I guess they get off that Allen salary, and because he won a lot of money, so I didn't think he's worth what he wanted. So yeah, sensible move.
That brings me to, though, when we're weighing all this, do you have the feeling, too, that I do? It feels like nobody gets to play defense anymore.
Yeah, changes are coming, sir. Don't worry. All
right.
Well, so, yes, I was going to ask you, like how we talked about baseball, what do you think about the plight of football and, how is it going? As you just alluded to about the defense, it looked like they're trying to legislate defense out the league, but I'll let you go ahead and talk.
Well, I think that's the number one thing. And it's funny, again, because I watch so much old games, YouTube, try to get a sense of what things were, even 90s and the early 2000s.
Jacked up.
And
ESPN, when they do jacked up, when you used to hit people.
Oh, yeah. But when you go back and look at it, you start to hear commentators begin to question certain hits that they're getting flags on. In the 80s, it wasn't a thing. Nope. Some guy would miss a pass off the receiver's hand, helmet and chest knocked backward, like, hey, too bad you missed the pass. Too bad you didn't catch that. And it was like no issue. Now, I don't think that was good football either for a guy to take 3 steps and hit somebody and put him out without the ball being there. I do think that there used to be some seriously late hits on quarterbacks. But it's getting – and I know many people saw the Mahomes hit there in the playoffs where the 2 guys go over top and make – They basically missile each other and they miss Mahomes altogether, and it's a flag. And these are – game-changing pivotal calls. It's 3rd down and forever. Oopsie, Mahomes almost got hit. That's 15, and now we're going. I'm not trying to down Mahomes. I think he's a great quarterback. He's a next era or the guy of the era for sure. But the game starts to look ridiculous. And as a Washington fan, how many years ago Kirk Cousins was still there? There was a pivotal game, Washington Green Bay, where Matthews got the 2. He got 2.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, it was like so ridiculous. He was right at contact when the ball was released and got the late hit thing. And I'm a Skins fan. It was still Redskins then. And I'm watching it. And I'm like, ooh, I don't even like that. But even when I say that, 1983 at the championship game, Washington wins to return to get their ass kicked by the Raiders. That call that they made on holding famously on Rodney Lott was ridiculous. Yeah. And just before that, they called a pass interference on Art Monk, one of my favorite players of all time, and that was ridiculous. Yes. Yeah. So looking back as a Skins fan, I used to remember, like, maybe I wish we'd have gone ahead and lost so we don't carry the stain of Marcus Allen running 77 yards against us.
Yes.
But that game, man, at the end, I was like, holy cow, like, that didn't look good. So it's always kind of been that. I just bring up that. And, D.A., that's something else I had for you. Since you're a conspiracy guy, Baltimore Jets.
Yes, he is.
Did the Colts throw it?
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to.
Look, come on. Look.
I'm not so sure I don't believe it either.
Let's think about the 2 quarterbacks that played that game for the Colts. Forget it. Listen, Joe Namath, God bless Joe Willie. Namath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love him, but his name is bigger than his game.
I agree.
Those 2 quarterbacks that played for the Colts that year were all league forever quarterbacks. No way in the world they don't score 21 points with guys open in the end zone. Stop it. I don't know which family did it. Whatever family did it, that family did it. And say, hey, you're going to – there was open receivers down the field.
Well, Jimmy Orr's the famous one you're talking about. Yeah. They had run that same play earlier in the season. It's fake here, fake there. He goes out. It's kind of it's not really an end. Yeah, and he's down there waving and
jumping jacks.
Yeah.
Jumping jacks, man.
Yeah, Bubba Smith always said he thought it was thrown.
Yeah, and what's the guy? Well, he died kind of with the
Kel Rosenblum.
The tight end for
John Mackey.
Yeah, straight. Listen, man. He said it after the game. Like, he wouldn't interview right after the game. He's so damn mad. So, that was thrown. It was good for the league.
Well, that was always the rumor that Pete Rozelle had kind of goosed the Colts and said, hey, look, if we win 3 in a row, 2 with the Packers and now this one, no one's going to believe in the merger. But then on the other side, I'm like, you're still going to have a merger.
Business-wise, it was still going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So Lamar Hunt and those guys, it was going to go down.
Yep.
Well, it had already been accepted, so there's no reason for the throw. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think in that final AFL, NFL, do you think the Chiefs kicking around the Vikings was legit?
Yeah, because that defense is crazy.
I did, too.
That defense of the Chiefs
you're
crazy.
Right. And Willie Lanier,
the purple people eaters. Yep.
Well, no, it was the Willie Lanier and them who was the first black middle linebacker in the league, because people didn't think that black guys were strong enough to play. And Scram was a good coach, but he didn't run anything hard. But he was not as precise, I guess, as Lombardi was. But his running plays were the same up the alley.
That's right.
Hit the 5 hole, hit the 6 hole, get a block here, take a guard around. We're running with the guard. And if you can do that well today.
But they did a ton of shifting, just like Joe Gibbs. 8 running plays in the whole playbook, but do multiple shifts.
Multiple places.
And Willie Lanier's from Richmond, by the way. Richmond, Virginia.
Okay, see, there you go.
Another Virginia guy.
There you go. So
God bless Willie.
I thought, even now, even Tom Brady will say, now that he's not playing,
right?
Yeah, come on, man, you gotta let the defense play, right?
Oh, he's already said that.
Yeah, he says it all the time now.
Yeah,
he's not getting hit. Now that it's not, what's your boy from Ray Lewis is not coming at him. He says, "Hey, man, come on, man, you got to let him hit. You got to let him do this, you got to let him do that, right?" But which is fine. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think the NFL, the problem with the NFL is not so much the defense to me, as it is, unfortunately, the officiating.
Yeah.
And the way in which they're not using technology. So, again, I have this, I tell Kevin all the time, I got a real problem with it. I don't have a problem. If you don't have the square on the screen, don't have a problem. If you get the square on the screen, then I can see it's a strike. Stupid. Like, I can, dude, I'm looking at the box. The ball's going in the box. It's a strike. Now, I do know how hard it is to stand over a catcher's head and call strikes and balls. I especially at the pro level, I'm pretty sure it's even harder. But you are a pro umpire, so I don't give you any props for that. Like, right, you're at the level you're supposed to be. Right. I know it's hard to do, but you get paid a lot of money to be an umpire in MLB. So I expect you to make 75 to 80% of the right calls. Football, you got 7 dudes on a crew, 6, whatever. You guys can confer when there's a call, when there's a play. You guys can go together and say, "Hey, what did you see? What did you see?" Of course, not all the time, but you can do that. And then you got a TV screen that tells you, look, Allen was there. It's a first down. They're going to beat, Kansas City.
Yeah.
Why do it? Why have it and not use it? And I think that's just the weirdest thing the NFL does. But to their credit, what they do is that they have those owners' meetings every summer where they try to course correct. So, in my word, they're a league, but they are agile. So they try to correct every year and fix it or fix something every year.
Well, remember last night I read on the show how they're using the Hawkeye technology and they're going to replace the chain gainer still be there, but for close first down they're going to use the Hawkeye technology. So to their credit,
and what is that exactly?
So basically, if you're trying to measure up, because law enforcement uses to basically,
right,
they'll measure up and line up wherever the line of scrimmage is supposed to be at, and they'll get it right down to the centimeter with the laser. But they'll still use the chain gang, of course, for a first down that that's you can call it, you can see it with the naked eye. But anything that's close, 4 inches, they're.
But the biggest problem is what is down, right? So if the referees Jack has the ball, he hits the ground, right?
Yeah.
Where's the ball at when his knee hits the ground? Right?
Yeah.
So, all those things we have to get. You're a lawyer. They have to be quantitatively solid. So this is what this means, right? Because we don't want to hear for a first down you can do this, but for a touchdown you can do that. Because then,
well, the reason I'm showing this, I bought this from a dealer. Found a guy that knew somebody. This is an actual Washington Redskin ball from 2019, so it's the 100th anniversary season. It's the last year of the team name, and it's got a little thing on there about it having a chip in it.
Yeah, the ball. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And so I've always wondered why
they didn't use it.
Well, have they ever thought about? Now I'm thinking about every angle that the ball could be in, but what if they put a tip in each point of the ball, and I don't know, maybe 4 quadrants or whatever. But if they could find a way that they could absolutely say the tip made it past the laser point, then you I don't know. I mean, that seems like
I believe that's what that chip is for.
I heard it was something about balls kicked in the stands. They could locate it. I don't know. There might have been
Why would you do that?
I've never heard. Well, the thing about it too, I don't know, because this thing says in the logo thing chip, but I don't know where the chip is. I don't know if it's generally in the ball somewhere else, but they all have this chip in them. and because I like
think it's under the laces and the inside of the ball.
got it. Okay, and I've got a little falcon action too. These footballs they're so much better made than the one you get at particular sporting goods stores.
Right.
Pretty interesting. But yeah, they got a chip in them, so
yeah,
technology's there.
Definitely there. Jack, before we get out of here, this has been wonderful, man.
Always.
I don't know if I asked you. Well, we talked about that. What's your best baseball movie?
Oh, it's Bull Durham. It's not even close. I almost kicked the kid off the team one time for mentioning another movie, but no, it is Bull Durham. But I'm going to let you gentlemen speak on that first, and then I'll tell you what happened.
He said, "Major Leagues, out of here!" Yeah.
No, it wasn't that. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. You guys tell me what you like best.
I like Bull Durham in Major League.
Okay, I'm with you.
First,
Kevin?
That's because Bob Uecker, God bless him.
No, I agree with you with the what you're talking about. Why I can't think of that? I think Bull Durham.
Yeah. So I'm on
a realistic.
Ron Shelton played 5 years in the minors. Yeah. He also did White Men Can't Jump, so he had some bad athletic background. But yeah, it was very much about what professional baseball is like. But yeah, I got a kid on the team, college coaching 10 years ago. We had this discussion. He goes, "Coach, it's for the love of the game." And I'm like, I won't say exactly what I said to him, but I threatened to kick him off the team I said, that's a chick flick, right? That's a girl's film, right? Now,
rom-com.
Yeah, but the scene where he's throwing the perfect game and he's using the clear the mechanism and all the mental stuff, that's pretty good. But I'm like, when I got a kid on the baseball team say that, and then I explained to the kids the most important line in the movie is after Nuke gets called up and he tells him, "You're going to get lit up when you go to the big leagues, but keep acting like you own the place, play with confidence and all." He goes, "Yep, that's the secret. Fear and arrogance." And he goes, "Got it. Fear and ignorance." He goes, "No, you dumb hayseed." But I have told kids that there's so many great lines about how the game is played.
Right.
And you do get that sense. It's a 2-hour movie and it has its moments or whatever it is, but you do see a different Nuke in the end. You do. Yeah. When he's leaving, there's a different confidence. He's dressed different. He's carrying himself different.
Oh, he's grown up.
Right. And now he owes his whole career to this 34-year-old that has no more major league future. Mm. And that's the reality of the game. They do. They send guys down to handhold guys that are prospects.
Yeah. I've seen that.
I got you. What's your best football movie?
Wow. Man, best football movie. Whoa, let's see.
I'll tell you mine.
Go.
Any Given Sunday.
I was thinking of that because I can't really think of too many others.
I love that movie. And when they said they was going to do a second rendition of it, I said, don't mess that up because that I remember all the lines from there. What's Jamie Foxx's quarterback name? What was his name? DA.
What's his name?
Man, what was it? Oh, that's good. I don't remember.
I just had it, man.
I'm sorry, because I said something. That's why. That's what it was.
That wasn't my favorite movie, though. My favorite movie is different.
Go ahead.
For different reasons. And it's The Program, man.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot. Hey, Remy.
Yo, dog, I remember being on the field yelling at motherfuckers like that. I remember, yo, motherfucker, I see you, 23. I see you, yelling and screaming at dudes.
Omar Epps was lead.
Well, one thing I thought about on Any Given Sunday is when the NFL Network did the top 100 players of all time about 12, 15 years ago.
Willie Beeman is his name. That's Jamie Foxx.
That's right.
Yeah.
So number one on the list of all-time greatest players was Jerry Rice. Jim Brown 2, Lawrence Taylor 3, 15 years ago or so when they did that. And that's one of the things I thought about in those scenes, that Jim Brown and Lawrence Taylor are in the same movie together.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, like, they're doing some manly pushing around. They're doing the whole thing. And you're like, damn. I mean, I don't care what else is going on. That's Jim Brown and that's Lawrence Taylor in a movie together.
And they tell you how big that goddamn Jim Brown was.
Yes.
Man.
Yes.
That was a man. That was a man there.
I was shocked how big he was when I saw him. I mean, he was big.
Yeah. And so you saw him play as a kid in Cleveland, and I was like, I watched all this film, and I'm like, first off, there wasn't a way to tackle him. There was no way to tackle him because he was all knees all the time, right? So you never wanted to go low and going high. He didn't. He could this, but he used to shrug a lot of guys as well, which means that he was stronger than people. Because if you jump on a dude and he shrugs you off, that's like you jumping on your father when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And they just push you off from without using their hands. The dog, like he did that to grown men.
And the greatest lacrosse player of all time.
Of all time, yes.
All time.
Wow.
Syracuse University. Yeah, he's recognized as the greatest lacrosse player of all time.
Yeah, he's never. Yeah, they said never. There was no one ever better, close to him in lacrosse.
Wow.
God bless Jim Brown.
God bless him. God bless him.
Yeah, he was a special dude. He really was.
That's a good dude. And Dick Butkus was in that.
Love Butkus. God, I love Butkus. And they're all passing, man. It's terrible, right? We're losing everybody.
Dick used to hit dudes and clap their heads. Like, jump on you and then bow with his arms and when he tackled you. Like, that, dog. If you watch the technique, it's crazy.
But the fact that he went from that guy to him and Bubba Smith doing the light beer commercials together and all the comedy he
awesome.
did.
Yes.
They were beautiful together. Because, what was Bubba, 6'8", and then Dick Butkus was like 6'3", and they'd run around and, they were going to play tennis together. Whatever it was, it's like
great marketing.
That's what was great about America. And then, we were talking about the 80s, they were retired, but all those celebrities in those the Miller Lite commercials,
and
they were they were your heroes, man. That was really cool back then.
I actually think they say football.
Wow. Yeah, if you think about it, you said the celebrities. Look, remember Billy Martin had a couple of those.
Oh no.
Billy Martin and George.
Yeah, him and George.
Just about every athlete of the era was in one. Sonny Jurgensen was in one.
Yep. And I know we got to go on this note, but listen, man. And this is why I gave a soliloquy yesterday, Jack, about I think his name. What's the dude's name? From Golden State.
Draymond Green.
Draymond Green was talking about not respecting the elders and the elders don't respect us. The elders, the older guys, didn't take themselves that seriously, so they could joke around. You guys get a comment about this generation's players, and now you guys, you said I don't rebound, right? And you want to cry, and you want to have this shit, and cancel him because he talked about me. Don't take yourself so seriously, dude. It's you're an athlete. Like if someone says, "Hey, man, maybe you try this next time," they don't mean you suck. It just means next time try that. That's all it means. And it's coming from a pro. It's not coming from me on the sideline, not being a pro telling you what to do. It's coming from a pro that played before. There's no reason to, fall out and get all upset about what they're saying to you. You're taking yourself too seriously, man. These kids take themselves too seriously and put too much stress on themselves.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. But I remember, was it not right when Boston played Detroit in the playoffs where I think it started with Rodman, Isaiah Thomas, one other both kind of said, if Larry Bird, hey, Larry had a great game, what do you think? And one or the other said, well, if he was a black player, he'd just be another guy. Something to that effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they pushed Isaiah Thomas, I think, to make the apology. And what did Bert say?
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm good, brother. You're good. Whatever. I don't care. And I remember years later, he goes, I really didn't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think – I just bring up that point because I think guys, like you're saying, D.A., guys were like, yeah. It was a heated moment. Like, he just got their ass kicked, so what's he going to say?
Right.
Like, is Larry Bird the greatest player ever? Yeah, maybe he brought race into it. Bird gives a shit. He's a white guy playing a black-dominated sport. Like, he hadn't heard that before.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. So he said that. So that always struck me as, like, how different the times were that a guy gets hit with something like that, and he stands at a podium and the apology to the other guy. He goes, all right, man, we're fine. Whatever. Move on.
Yeah, but that's what men do, Jack.
That's right.
We move on.
We agree to disagree at times.
Yeah, and we can bury it and move on. You bury it and you move on. It's something that you have to, move on. Like, you don't stay on this forever. And, Larry Bird was the dude that told someone, hey, man, why y'all disrespect me?
Put a white guy on me.
You put a white guy on me.
That's right.
Wow. I said, wow. So, meaning to say, Larry's saying, like, yo, dog, y'all know what y'all need to do.
He was a bad man.
Us.
Larry Bird was a bad man.
I'm going to say this before I get canceled.
Yeah.
Better than LeBron James. Historically. That's it. I looked at the numbers.
You won't get canceled, sir.
I did.
Larry was special.
Wait. We got Jack here. He can refer us to it as an attorney.
Yeah.
I got you gentlemen covered.
Yeah, I mean, but like very special.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's in the conversation of the greatest.
There's like, if you saw the Indiana State game against Michigan State, like there's no one else that played with Larry Bird, man, of that team. And same thing with Magic Johnson, but dog, it was Larry Bird. Like they were scoring Michigan State, and then Larry would score. Somebody would score Michigan State, and then Larry would score. Was and you're watching it on NBC, dog. This is it. Ain't no mistakes where you are. That was the music for it. NBC, college sports. I remember I watched that game. I was like, wow, this is what this is. Oh, I love sports. I love everything about sports. I love it. I'll be here one day because this is it. Ain't no mistakes where you are.
Yeah.
The DA singing, man.
Oh man, that's what came on before the game for the NCAA back then, man.
I got you.
I do think the wheelhouse was the 80s, though. I do. I think for all the broadcasts, all the commentators, all the everything, the 80s was the wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's man. Listen,
maybe make it a little bit into the 90s.
Yeah.
But I will say one modern player that I really loved and his passing was quite frightening and scary and all the rest. But I got a chance to see Kobe Bryant play live. And when there was, 15 years ago, the whole Kobe versus LeBron or whatever, I just really love Kobe Bryant as a player. I don't know what I'm looking at. But I really liked him a lot. And I kind of liked the way I thought he carried himself.
Yeah, I did.
Kobe had that killer mindset, man. Like he was trying to destroy you all the time.
That's why there are players with his name tattooed on them. Because that Mamba mentality is a real thing.
Even when LeBron came into the league and that All-Star game, he was like, "Nah, come on, let's go.
Let's play. It's a game."
Yeah.
I mean, I can't do it with these guys, man.
Before we go on our old man, rant, man. Jack, man, this has been wonderful. This has been really wonderful. Let me give you some applause, brother.
More to consider. That's the show. I'm on it.
He's the host of More to Consider. Like I said, wealth of information. Just a gentleman, a scholar, man. And Jack, we love talking. We, like I said, we almost rocked here for 2 hours, man. This was awesome, man. And I enjoy you, my brother. Thank you so much for.
Hey, God bless you, my brother.
Thank you, man. Hey, thank you, sir.
DA.
I really appreciate it.
Great time. Yeah, you guys be good, and let's do this again soon.
Yes, sir. I get up to VA every year, man. So I
absolutely. I'll
got
go.
A lot of family.
Kevin's got my contact information. You come my way, you let me know.
You in Norfolk, right?
I'm in Williamsburg area, but
okay, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm back and forth Virginia Beach all the time.
We'll talk off the air, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, man, for watching, man. This is a great thing. On behalf of myself, I'm Kevin Owan, your host and moderator. For the DA and for our special guest tonight, Jack Moore. Yo, this is the Sports Chasers podcast. Y'all be good, be great, man. We'll catch you on the flip side. Peace. Did I end this right? Hold on. I'm sorry. No, yes, sorry about that.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Sports Chasers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms and connect with us on all social media channels for exclusive content and updates. We'd also love for you to join the conversation, share your thoughts, and become part of the Sports Chasers community. And remember to tune in next time for some more real sports talk. Until then, stay frosty.